Garrett Haake. The whistleblower complaint is being read now. I know we've been watching. We know of folks going in and out. What are you learning, if anything, yet?
Well, not a lot so far, Chuck. It's mostly folks going in to look at this. This is, still a classified situation. But I think there are a couple points of note here. Building off of what Julia was just saying, we are so much closer to the beginning of this process than we're going to be to the end of it. You mentioned the folks who have been implicated by association here, the Attorney General, by the President, the State Department, by Rudy Giuliani. I would add the Vice President, who the President casually suggested during that press conference the Democrats should go after his phone call with Zelensky. I imagine there are Democratic committee staffers writing that down and pursuing that avenue right now. I mean, there is so much farther that Democratic investigators can and likely will go with this. Now, in terms of people to watch, I would take issue with the idea of House Republicans potentially breaking away from the president on this. You look at the House Republican caucus right now, the folks who are left tend to be the diehards. These are people who ridden out 2018. Right.
I get that, but there are 20 or 30 that could have peeled off, and he was afraid of that. That's all.
Maybe. I think the ones who are more interesting to watch still are Senate Republicans. I mean, I was out having these conversations today, mostly on the Senate side. And while you did see a lot of folks kind of stick to the company line here, I think, relieved a little bit to hear the open-mindedness of some of these Republican senators who said, look, the House jumped the gun here, but we're going to go review this. We're going to look at these documents. We're going to work our way through it. I think we also need to be careful here, not to get caught up in the quid pro quo part of this. It's starting to feel a lot to me like when we all talked about collusion, as though that were a legally relevant term. The quid pro quo here is not in any way relevant to what the House can or cannot pursue here in terms of impeachment. Right. It's just a talking point at this point, and something that the White House has put out to say, this is not a thing we have done. That's not especially relevant in terms of what the House is choosing to investigate and how they will go forward.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.